Hey everybody, this is Sarah from Sage Advice Wellness, and today we're talking about how to choose an herbal tea. And herbal teas can be used for a lot of reasons. Some people just do it like trying them because they taste good, and other people have medicinal purposes or therapeutic purposes that they're using them for. I use it for both reasons. I like that there are nutritional benefits and stress support benefits or specific organ system support, but I also really like the taste of some herbs. So I have a huge cabinet of herbal teas, and sometimes it's hard choosing which one I'm going to use that day. So I'm going to kind of walk you through like a basic process of how to choose an herbal tea, and then some specific teas that I think are super awesome, and I'll share those with you and what they are good for. And I'm going to have a more extensive list on my blog, which I'll publish later today. So basically, three things you want to ask yourself when you're choosing herbal tea. The first one is, what mood am I in right now? So if you're feeling really low, or if you're feeling really happy, or you're feeling really stressed, or feeling energized or bored, what kind of mood are you in right now, and what tea do you think would help you with that mood or improve that mood? Or if it's already pretty great, then maybe you just want something for enjoyment. The second thing to ask is, what mood do you want to be in when you're done drinking the tea? So if you're super stressed and you want to calm down, then tell yourself that that's what you want, and you want the tea that supports that the best. If you are feeling low energy and you want to be energized at the end, then you should choose a tea that's the best for supporting energy. And so on and so forth. So the third thing that you would ask yourself is, what body system am I trying to support? So maybe you don't really have a mood necessarily, but you just really want to help your liver out, or maybe you want to help your blood sugar. Then there's a lot of herbs that are specific for those things. So you can ask yourself, what is it that I really want from this tea? Why am I here? Why am I here making this tea? And then you can choose a tea based off of that. If you haven't noticed, when you go to a grocery store, there's usually a pretty big selection of herbal teas, and it can be kind of overwhelming to choose one. I like choosing brands that specialize in herbs, and so some brands include Gaia or traditional medicinals or yogi teas. Those have all been around a while. They are very selective with their herb quality. And there's some other brands that are smaller that are also wonderful, but they're not as easy to find. So those are the three that I tend to go for. So I'm going to go through a couple of different specific herbs and what they're good for, and then what brands you might use with those. And then there's a few that I have with me here today that I'll show you kind of what they look like and what I use them for. So the first one is alfalfa, and alfalfa is a grass that's really rich in vitamin K and minerals and chlorophyll, and it's really awesome for helping your blood clot properly. So if you are on a clotting medication, you don't want to be having alfalfa, but if you aren't, if you have any kind of clotting issues, it can be really supportive if you bruise a lot. It also is really rich in minerals, so it can support any kind of nutrient depletion, especially if you've had any kind of malabsorption where your digestive system wasn't absorbing nutrients for a while. For example, if you have celiac disease, alfalfa can be really supportive at helping you make sure that you would get a lot of nutrients. It can also lower your blood sugar. So that can be great if you're borderline diabetic, but if you take insulin or you're type 1 diabetic, you should use a lot of caution. Make sure you work with your doctor or your nutritionist to make sure that that's safe for you. And it can interact with some estrogen imbalance conditions like endometriosis. So always, again, check with your health practitioner before you use alfalfa. One brand that I really like that makes alfalfa tea is Alveda. And there's a bunch you can buy like on Etsy and things like that, but they aren't necessarily going to be the ones that are established as a good quality source. So it's good to go with a brand that you trust. If you have an herbal brand that you trust and they have an alfalfa tea, then that would be a great option also. Another one I like is Burdock. Burdock is actually, it's a root, and it can be eaten as a vegetable, and it often is in Japan, but it can be dried and used as a tea, and it's super helpful for bronchial inflammation. So if you have any kind of like chronic coughing going on, it's helpful for that. If you have H. pylori, which is an infection in your stomach that can cause some issues, you can use burdock, and it inhibits adhesion of H. pylori, so that's super cool. It also reduces stomach inflammation. So if you're having any kind of digestive issues, you may try some burdock tea and see if that's helpful. It also reduces oxidative stress, which just means general stress in your body, especially in your cardiovascular system. So any kind of cardiovascular issues could be supported by burdock. and it also decreases joint inflammation. So if you're having swelling of the knees, that would be super helpful. If you're allergic to a ragweed, though, you should avoid burdock because it's a similar herb. Cinnamon is super cool. You can cook with cinnamon, obviously. It's used to flavor a lot of things, but you can buy tea that has cinnamon in it. And cinnamon is great for balancing blood sugar, for lowering blood sugar specifically. So once again, if you're on any kind of blood sugar regulation medication, you should be really careful, but it can be super great if you're just borderline diabetic or have metabolic syndrome and you're working towards natural support for that. And so one tea that I really like that is cinnamon is made by Puka. It's a funny little name. And Puka has a 3 cinnamon tea, so it has Indian, Indonesian, and Vietnamese cinnamon. So that's kind of cool because you're getting a variety of sources, and different types of cinnamon have different like constituent varieties, and so you're getting a nice blend of things there. Cinnamon also is really good for circulation, and so that can be really helpful if you feel like you're sluggish all the time or if you have low energy. So check in with that if you're wanting a little boost of energy. Another one I really like is holy basil. Holy basil is one of my favorite herbs in the whole world, and I love drinking holy basil tea because it's a nice way to get it throughout your day. Holy basil has been proven in many clinical studies to reduce stress, anxiety, and depression scores over and over again, so it's super helpful for that. It elevates mood, it makes you feel calm, and it's generally safe for most people. There's not a whole lot of interactions, so it's wonderful for most people. And one that I really like is made by Traditional Medicinals, and this one has ginger in it. They also make a plain one, but I like this one with ginger because I like ginger anyway. Ginger has its own wonderful list of properties, and it makes it taste kind of spicy, which I enjoy. So I like making that in the evening to kind of wind down, and sometimes I add honey and it has a really nice flavor. Lemon balm is also another one of my favorites. Lots of similar properties to holy basil. It's very calming. It tastes really great. It has a lemony flavor, which is why it's called lemon balm. So it can be nice if you don't like the earthy taste of holy basil. You might like a fresh lemon taste of lemon balm. It also has been proven in a lot of clinical style studies to support things. It has a lot of constituents which have a support for the digestive system. It's also been proven to reduce depression and anxiety. It improves sleep. It helps with stress management. It can actually also help PMS. So if you have PMS, lemon balm tea might be something you could try. If you have herpes virus and it keeps coming back with cold sores, lemon balm has been shown to inhibit the herpes virus, so that might be helpful for you. And because it causes sleepiness in some people, if you take any kind of sedative medication, you shouldn't be using lemon balm. Another popular one is licorice tea. So licorice tea doesn't taste exactly like licorice candy, but it has that same kind of slightly sweet, smooth mouthfeel. And licorice supports the adrenals, which is really helpful if you are chronically stressed or if you're having like burnout symptoms. And I like having licorice tea just plain. I think it's super good. This is a Stash brand, which isn't a super high quality brand, but they've been around for a while and they have some nice like plain teas. If you have high blood pressure, especially if you're on medication, you shouldn't be using licorice because it can elevate your blood pressure. And if you have elevated androgens, such as with PCOS, and you'd have to have blood tests done to know that probably, you shouldn't be using licorice because it can accelerate the pathway that causes high androgens to be imbalanced in your body. Another really popular one is nettle. It's also called stinging nettle. A lot of people use this for immune and allergy support. It has a lot of lutein, xanthophyll, and carotenes, which are all phytonutrients that reduce inflammation. So it can be especially helpful with allergic rhinitis. It reduces insulin resistance. It also supports prostate health and has antiviral properties. So it's super helpful for the immune system, but it does a lot of other things too. It can lower blood pressure and act as a diuretic. So if you are on medications for those things, you should use caution and ask your doctor if it's safe. And it stimulates uterine contractions, which can be super helpful if you're trying to support a normal period, but it's unsafe during pregnancy. So be cautious with that. Rooibos tea, it's spelled R-O-O-I-B-O-S, is super popular as an alternative to regular tea because it's caffeine free. It's also called red tea because it has a reddish tint when you steep it, and it has a nice mild flavor which mixes well with a lot of things. So you can drink it plain, but I almost always see it with other stuff. It's really rich in antioxidants, so that's really helpful for blood sugar and cardiovascular health and skin health. And it just kind of makes you feel good when you drink it. And one that I really like is chai rooibos. So this is rooibos tea that's been blended with other chai spices, cardamom, cinnamon, ginger, and clove bud. And so it has a kind of like rich, spicy taste to it, which is awesome. And then you get the antioxidant benefits from rooibos as well. So it's a nice caffeine-free chai option. So when I'm really craving chai tea at night, that's what I have. Rosemary is one that you might not think of as a tea. A lot of people cook with rosemary or use rosemary essential oil, but you can make tea with rosemary. It has a really strong astringent feel to it, so it can be really awesome if you make a tea and then use it topically. But you can also use it internally. It has antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory properties, so that can be super helpful if you have digestive concerns or mild infection. It's been clinically shown to reduce inflammation markers. So if you have high like CRP, then that would be helpful. It reduces LDL and raises HDL cholesterol. So if you're looking for stuff to support your heart, that's super helpful. And it can reduce arthritic pain. It can also improve your memory. So some studies show that if you smell rosemary while you're studying, it can improve your memory, but it also helps if you drink the rosemary tea. So if you're studying for a big exam, rosemary can be super helpful for you there. It actually has also been shown to reduce depression and anxiety. So this is just one other thing that can be supportive. I tend to favor other herbs first just because they have more evidence behind them. But rosemary has been shown to reduce depression and anxiety. So if you're having mood issues and you like rosemary, try that out. It might not be safe during pregnancy, so always be super careful and ask your health provider. And it has similar constituents. It has some ingredients in it that are similar to aspirin, so if you have an aspirin allergy or a seizure disorder, you shouldn't be taking any kind of rosemary. Another one is sage. Sage is like my business name, Sage Advice Wellness. Sage is an awesome herb. It helps with memory and cerebrovascular function, which is just a fancy way of saying that it helps circulation in your brain. It's rich in a specific kind of antioxidant called superoxide dismutase. And superoxide dismutase is one of the strongest, most active antioxidants in your body, and it's super helpful for cardiovascular function and cerebrovascular function. It also has a few other things in it that support estrogen metabolism. It decreases blood sugar. It can normalize your period cycle. And it also just has a nice flavor to it, so it mixes well with a lot of other herbs. If you have an estrogen-sensitive condition, like an estrogen-sensitive cancer or endometriosis, you should avoid having a lot of sage. It could be used in food, but you shouldn't be drinking the tea. And it also interacts with sedatives and anticonvulsants, so avoid it if you have those. And one other thing I wanted to show you is there's a lot of herbal teas that are blends out there, and some of them are better than others, but one that I really like is called Throat Comfort. So I'm going to show you that one. So Throat Comfort has a couple of things I already mentioned. It has licorice in it as the first ingredient, and it also has cinnamon and ginger and slippery elm and orange peel. Some of those I haven't mentioned yet, but they'll be in my blog. And those things support lubrication of your throat, so it's super helpful if you have a dry or gunky throat. And it also is great for singers. If you speak a lot or if you're singing a lot and your throat's getting dry or inflamed, then this tea can be really helpful. So some brands like Yogi and Traditional Medicinals will make combinations of herbs that are really good combinations. So you should check them out and see what you think. I'm going to see if there are any questions. So I don't see any questions, but if you ever are curious about an herbal tea, one that you've tried or haven't tried and you want to know, let me know in the comments and I'll try to get you some answers. Thanks for watching.